It was a cold evening, the kind that left a thin layer of fog resting on the streets and made the city lights blur into hazy glows. Daniel, a man in his late 30s, sat behind the wheel of his car. He had just finished a long day at work, the kind of day where every task seemed heavier than usual, and every conversation drained him more than he expected. He wanted nothing more than to get home, throw off his jacket, and sink into the quiet of his living room. Traffic was crawling as usual. The red lights stretched endlessly ahead, and Daniel's mind drifted in and out of thought. He tapped the steering wheel lightly, humming to the faint music playing through the speakers. His window was rolled halfway down to let in some fresh air, though the chill nipped at his skin. That was when he noticed her. She was standing by the curb, wrapped in tattered clothes that looked as though they had once been warm but now offered little protection against the biting air. Her hair was messy, strands sticking out in all directions, and her hands trembled as she held out a small cardboard sign. The words on it were scrawled in uneven letters, hungry and cold. Please help. Daniel had seen countless beggars before. Living in the city meant you could not drive far without encountering someone asking for change or food. But there was something different about her. The way she stood there wasn't like the others who would weave through traffic, knocking on windows persistently. She stood silently, almost timidly, her eyes scanning faces but never locking onto anyone for too long. She looked as though she was carrying the weight of something far heavier than hunger. As Daniel's car approached where she stood, his eyes flicked toward her almost against his will. He told himself he didn't have time tonight. He didn't carry much cash, and besides, he had learned to harden himself. Too often, he had seen generosity taken advantage of. But something inside urged him, a faint whisper that refused to let him turn away. Against his hesitation, he pressed the button, and the window lowered with a soft hum. The woman slowly turned her head at the sound, and Daniel's breath caught in his throat. For a second, the world seemed to pause. The noise of traffic faded, the glow of headlights blurred, and all he could focus on was her face. Her face was pale, worn, and marked with the roughness of days spent outside, yet beneath the dirt and weariness, he recognized her. His heart thudded violently in his chest. He knew this woman, not just in passing, not from a fleeting memory, but from a place deep within his past, a place he thought he had locked away forever. It was Clara. Years ago, Clara had been someone he knew well. She was not only familiar, she had been unforgettable. Back in college, she was the girl everyone seemed drawn to, not because she tried to be, but because she radiated warmth. Clara had been the one who could light up a room with a laugh, who would listen to people when no one else cared. She was the girl who once sat across from Daniel in the campus library, sketching in her notebook while he pretended to study, secretly sneaking glances at her whenever he thought she wouldn't notice. They had shared classes, late-night study sessions, and even dreams of the future. She had talked about becoming an artist, opening her own studio, painting murals that told stories across the walls of the city. Daniel had admired her, perhaps even loved her in his own quiet way, though he never found the courage to tell her. Life after college took them on separate paths, and time, as it often does, erased her from the forefront of his memory. Until now, and here she was, standing outside his car, begging for help. Clara, he whispered, barely realizing the word had escaped his lips. Her eyes, dull with exhaustion, flickered with a strange light when she heard her name. She stepped closer, squinting as if trying to peer through the fog of memory. Then, a faint smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Daniel, she said softly. It felt impossible. The girl he remembered, full of life and ambition, was now standing here on the cold streets, clutching a cardboard sign, her future seemingly stolen away. His mind reeled with questions, but his voice was tangled with shock. What happened to you? Her smile faltered, and she looked down, almost ashamed. It's a long story, she murmured. Traffic horns blared behind him, snapping Daniel back to reality. He was holding up the cars, yet he couldn't bring himself to roll the window up and drive away. Instead, he quickly pulled over to the side of the road, parked, and stepped out. Clara's eyes widened in surprise as he approached her. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice trembling with disbelief. Clara hugged herself tightly, as if bracing against the cold and his words alike. Life doesn't always turn out the way you think, she replied softly. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions all at once, but he stopped himself. Instead, he pulled out his wallet and handed her the cash he had. But she didn't reach for it right away. Instead, she looked at him with tired eyes and said, Daniel, I don't just need money. I need someone to listen. And so, on that sidewalk, with the city rushing past them, Clara began to tell her story. After college, she had pursued her dream. For a time, it had been everything she imagined: painting murals, taking commissions, living in a small but vibrant apartment filled with canvases and brushes. But dreams, as she learned, were fragile. A sudden illness had taken her mother, leaving her drowning in grief and debt. She had tried to cope, tried to keep her work going, but the weight of bills and loneliness slowly crushed her. She fell in with the wrong people, people who promised her relief but led her into darker places. Addiction followed, clawing at her life until everything she built collapsed. When she hit rock bottom, the world turned its back. Friends disappeared, opportunities vanished. One by one, she lost the things that tethered her to stability: her home, her art, her sense of purpose. And now, she was here, reduced to asking strangers for enough change to eat. Daniel listened in stunned silence. His heart ached as he watched tears glisten in her eyes while she spoke. This wasn't the Clara he remembered, yet it was. Beneath the weariness and pain, her voice still carried the gentleness he had once admired. "Clara," he said finally, "you don't belong here. You can't stay like this." She gave a hollow laugh. "And where do I belong, Daniel? I tried, I really did, but the world doesn't let you go back once you've fallen this far." That night changed something in Daniel. He couldn't simply drive away and pretend he hadn't seen her. Something inside told him he had been given this moment for a reason. So he did what many wouldn't. He offered her a meal, a place to rest for the night. Clara resisted at first, ashamed, afraid of becoming a burden. But the sincerity in his eyes eventually softened her hesitation. She agreed. As they sat in a small diner later that night, Clara ate slowly, as though every bite reminded her of the life she once had. Daniel watched, his thoughts spinning. He thought about the girl she used to be, the dreams she once carried, and the cruel way the world had unraveled them. He realized how easy it was for anyone's life to collapse, how thin the line really was between comfort and despair. In the days that followed, Daniel couldn't shake the encounter. He helped Clara find shelter, connected her with resources, and more importantly, reminded her that she was still human, still worthy of dignity. Slowly, Clara began to believe it too. She picked up a pencil again, then a brush, her hands trembling at first but growing steadier with each stroke. The art that once defined her started to return, fragile but alive. Their paths had crossed again by chance, but perhaps it wasn't chance at all. For Daniel, the moment he opened his car window to a beggar and saw Clara's face became the moment he realized the power of compassion, the truth that one act of recognition could breathe life back into someone who had nearly been forgotten. And for Clara, that moment reminded her that even when the world turns its back, there may still be someone who remembers you, someone who sees not just what you are now, but what you were and what you can be again. This is not just a story of reunion. It is a story of second chances, of kindness in the face of despair, and of the haunting reminder that the faces we pass by every day hold stories we may never imagine. You never know who you might find on the other side of a car window. This was today's story from Story Sprout, where tales take root and grow into something unforgettable. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to stay with us for more. Because every story holds a seed, and when shared, it can change lives.